Welcome to the Simpleton Podcast. This is Laura Heeman. I'm here today with Soren Johnson from the Trinity House community, and we are going to talk a little bit about his ministry that he runs with his wife and I think other people as well. and we'll ask just questions about that, and also some questions about their personal life and how they manage their ministry and family life and all of that. So I have only met Soren via computer, but he has met Clark, and I know several of his sisters-in-law. I think a lot of people do. We first met one of his sisters-in-law, Clark and I, doing Exodus Youth Ministries, which we've talked about on the podcast before, and that was really formative for Simple House getting started. So in my mind, she's kind of part of the early.
Right.
Yes. And then our kids go to school with and are friends with his other sister-in-law's kids. So your nephew, Levi, is my daughter Ceci's best friend.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, I had for some years known one of Catherine's sisters had this cafe, but I didn't really know very much about it. And I think last year or a couple years ago, Rosemary sent out a talk that you and Ever gave, and I was like, "Oh, this is great!" And then I went to the cafe with Catherine one time, and I kind of had this like, "Oh, Catholic cafe, that's cute." But I walked in there, and I was like, "Oh." Just immediately like a feeling of, oh, wow, this is really something. So it is really beautiful. It's in Leesburg, Virginia. It's worth visiting. Anyone that is close by. It's just really beautiful and peaceful and amazing. So yeah. Anyway, I guess maybe if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, how many kids you have, and how long you guys have been in Leesburg, and how long has Trinity House community been going?
Absolutely. Well, it's so great to be with you, Laura. Ever and I, as you've already noted, I married into a movement. I married way up, and it's beautiful to hear about how the larger family has even blessed you.
Mm-hmm.
Ever and I have been married 23 years. We met in the Jubilee year of 2000, and we're now proud parents of 5 children, ages from 7th grade up into a college graduate, 3 boys, 2 girls, and live just outside of Leesburg, Virginia, so an hour west of DC. And we really are living our dream, which was soon after we met, we started talking about, oh, could you imagine doing full-time ministry together? And it took us a while. We started a nonprofit soon after we got married, and it was a bit of, kind of a side hustle, and gradually came to this kind of vision with Trinity House community of our mission is to inspire families to make home a taste of heaven for the renewal of faith and culture. As St. John Paul II said, the future of humanity passes by way of the family. So we need to go upstream and begin to really look at renewal in the home. And we do that in 3 ways at Trinity House. First, we engage the local community with a beautiful representation of the Christian home in public with Trinity House Cafe. So as you noted, when you walk into Trinity House Cafe, you feel like you're walking into this beautiful, peaceful home. Mm-hmm. It's built in 1795. You immediately kind of feel the peace of the place. And so that's our ministry of hospitality at the corner of Church and Market Streets in Leesburg. And then
do a lot of Non-Catholics go there as well. Do a lot of people in the community
Absolutely.
go there? Oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're right across the street from the courthouse. And so we have a constant traffic. Get
Okay,
to see
good.
people getting ready for court and coming
Yeah.
out of court. So
Yeah.
very,
Maybe
very much in the public
lots
square.
of different feelings maybe
That's
coming out
right.
of there.
Exactly. A lot of
That's good.
emotion.
Yeah. Okay.
And and then, as you pointed out, we equip parents with a vision for their own family, their domestic church, which we call your Trinity House. We do that through our weekly e-letter, our Heaven in Your Home book, workshops, talks, retreats. And finally, the last part of our mission is to encourage families through parish-based Trinity House community groups. So that's our effort to really accompany families as they grow in community at the local parish level
Hmm.
with other families and strengthen their own family life. And those groups are now active at over 30 parishes in 14 states.
Wow, that's awesome. Families can kind of do an individual following your book and getting your email, or they can do the parish-based model, or they can do both, I assume.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are the kind of like topics in the emails that people would get?
Sure. We talk about 5 levels of your own Trinity House or your
Hmm.
domestic church. And so the topics for those 5 levels are faith life, person and relationships, level 3, household economy,
Hmm.
level 4, family culture. And then finally, you're going to share this with the world, hospitality and service. So the kind of bread and butter topics that we're looking at are, prayer in the home, the entering into a really holy Sabbath as a family, date night as a couple, strengthening relationships with your kids, communication styles. When you get into household economy, budgeting,
Hmm.
finances, healthy communication around that, and family culture. Definitely the dinner, the meals together as a family are such a key driver of so many positive outcomes in the lives of our children. And then hospitality and service, really having this orientation in your family to be, a beacon of evangelization in your neighborhood. Your home is often the only experience of the faith that many people will have. So are you ready to share that?
Yeah. That's great. When you say levels, is this like are the levels just different areas of concentration, or you're encouraging people to kind of get one level to some extent before they move on to the next, or can you explain that?
Yeah, great question. We feel like we started with faith life for level 1 as just,
Hmm.
the bedrock,
Yeah,
because
easy
really,
peasy. No, just
that's right.
kidding.
And the driving idea here is communion,
Hmm.
um, communion in the family. And so with faith life, we receive that communion from the Lord in the Eucharist, in the sacraments. And it's such a relief, because we're not making this up. We receive it for our families. And then, so there is a natural progression. Then we talk about deepening that communion in person and relationships, caring
Hmm.
for it in household economy, celebrating it in family culture, and then sharing that communion in
Hmm.
hospitality and service. So there's a progression there,
Hmm.
but we're very quick to say that you can
It's
you
probably
can be in all 5 levels in 1 hour,
yeah.
you know? So
Right, right.
um
Something that appealed to me was kind of the simplicity. And I think you said something like if the family in the home is already an image of the Trinity. And I liked the simplicity of that because I mean, and it's true, and it's
yeah.
beautiful. But I think people, there can be a feeling of like you're not doing enough, or you're not doing it well enough, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we point to this amazing passage 2205 in the Catechism,
Hmm.
where it says the Christian family is a communion of persons a
Mm.
sign and image of the communion of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. And so what we say to parents is, okay, you are an image bearer. You are made in the Imago Dei, the image of the Trinity. So you are already, a tabernacle for the communion of persons. I mean, you've received that in baptism. And so we say, okay, family life is messy, it's hectic, you constantly feel like you're failing. But don't lose sight of the fact that of everything on earth, your family is the closest image or little icon of the Trinity that is available. I mean, you're already well on your way. So take heart. You already have it. So it's really becoming who you are. It's living into the reality that God has already prepared for you and your family. So it's not out there in a self help book waiting to be discovered, for the price of $4,999. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
you have it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great it should be a consolation to us,
I definitely find that both consoling and also sort of like a good challenge to mirror
Yeah.
that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's like a good antidote to the way we culturally talk about parenting.
Yeah.
That, has, yeah, I don't know. It elevates all those little hardships with your kids
Mm-hmm.
and instead of making it a thing that we complain about.
Yes, I hear you.
Like we really prioritize family dinner in our house, first of all, because we like to eat.
Nice.
And it is a great time to be together with the kids. And also, like, I know it's just a thing that people have really hammered as, kind of a bedrock of family life.
Yeah.
But sometimes our family dinners aren't that pretty,
Sure.
You have when you have my kids are kind of growing out of this now, but toddlers that are rejecting food and elbows on the table
Of
and
course.
people quibbling about spots.
Sure.
Yeah, well, I don't know. What do you tell families about that?
Yeah. We first of all, we talk about patience and um the average American dinner is 11 minutes. So,
Oh, yeah.
one of the goals we throw out there is try to go beyond 11 minutes. But,
Yeah.
at the same time, we also look, I remember when our kids were just, throwing food all over the place. And it seems like 11 minutes would seem like a marathon at that point. So,
True.
really, I think we see a lot of different seasons in the
Hmm.
family meal. We encourage families get the phones away, keep technology away from the table, and try to recover the taste of that communion that you have at your table, which really is a bit of a sign, if you will, of your kind of Eucharistic table in your
Mm.
domestic church. Because this is where you're coming together as a family, you're listening, you're serving, you're welcoming one another. We talk about a welcome, listen, serve posture, which is kind of heaven's posture. And can you
Mm.
practice that in your home? And we encourage families, like right now, we feel like the average American home has lost the taste, I guess no pun intended, but the taste for what it means, for what it's like to just linger at the
Hmm.
table for
Hmm.
20, 30, 40, 60 minutes and tell stories and process your day and, go deeper. And so the more you do that, it's like a muscle. It's going to grow and maybe it's atrophied now and don't beat yourself up for it. Just get back in the game. And we're also finding that some have such a hard time with dinners and they're making family breakfast more of a priority, which,
Mm-hmm.
so I think there's all kinds of different ways depending on the family.
Yeah, that's great. We have, I mean, I think living in the DC area, there's a lot of people coming home late,
Yeah.
from work or people have sports. But I have a friend whose husband is a lawyer with long hours. And so he started going into work late so that he could, be there, have a nice breakfast with the kids. And
Yeah.
it was a really positive thing for their family life.
Just
Well,
one
that's,
other
oh,
really
yeah.
quick point on
Hmm.
this is secular social scientists have studied dinner time, and they say that there is no practice that has greater and more positive long term outcomes in a family's life than time spent at the dinner table.
Wow.
So we're talking emotional success, we're talking about confidence, we're talking about the longevity of their future marriage, we're
Wow.
talking about their financial income. Like the more time spent at the dinner table correlates with those long term outcomes. So I think, we don't have to get on a tangent, but it is a real shame that sometimes we sacrifice that number one place for a bunch of sports and extracurriculars
Yeah.
because, well, great. I mean, okay, soccer went long, but you've just lost something really important if you're not careful.
Yeah. Wow. It's just interesting to think about it in those terms because I think it's like all of it is I mean, obviously sports are fun. We really like sports in our family.
Yeah,
Sports
yeah,
are
we do
fun,
too. Absolutely.
and but there's so much that I feel like you're always worried about the kids' outcome, the kids' future. And I mean, I think for us, sports, like we want our kids to move their body, and there's a very much a now aspect to it. But I think also
Yeah.
it's just like part of thinking, like, how are you forming this person to be a good adult? Oh, they need to do the sports, they need to do the music, they need to do.
Yeah. Mhm.
And
Right.
so it's interesting that there's this factor that you have to feed your kids no matter what.
Yeah, that's right.
And you could, yeah, well, anyway, yeah, that is really interesting. Could you tell me more about the like Trinity House, the gatherings in like the church-based groups, what those look like?
Yes. Yeah. We really sensed that there's this gap in parish life often, unfortunately, and that
Mm-hmm.
is you can take your entire family to mass, but then what else can you do as a family at the parish? Well, there's a great men's group, there's a great women's group. There might be teams of Our Lady for couples. There's a youth group. There's a young adult group. But where can the family come together? Well, maybe it's just the annual parish picnic. So what we realized was what we heard was so many couples out there are starving for community. They
Mm-hmm.
feel alone. Here they've taken on the greatest challenge you can imagine, which is starting a family and bringing your children up in the faith in today's culture. And they feel alone and embattled. And they look around and they see the statistics of 80% of kids leaving the faith by the end of college. And so, in a nutshell, this is a plug and play model that a parish can subscribe to, and they can form a small, what we call a core team, 3, 4, 5 couples that will, together with the parish, at the parish hall, or maybe your parish school cafeteria, host 5 all family gatherings throughout the course of the year. And it begins with a little pizza salad type dinner, 30 minutes. Then the parents watch a really beautiful video for 12 minutes and they discuss it together as couples for 20 minutes. Meanwhile, the kids are down the hallway with childcare for about 45 minutes total, just enjoying each other and having a good time. And then you come back together for a dessert and drinks reception. So that's for we're for an annual, very modest subscription fee. A parish can really bring this model of building family life and building community. And then the second part is we're seeing some parishes are not doing the all family events, but they're taking our materials, subscribing, and they're hosting gatherings of, say, parents of religious education kids during, for example, the sacrament years First
Hmm.
Communion, confirmation, and they're strengthening community among those parents and also giving them the tools they need. So it's a little bit of a simpler adaptation of the model, but you still get to inspire families, equip them, and build community.
That's great. I like the idea of giving the adults some time to talk, but then also incorporating the kids and having them be there, because I do think there is this thing where it's like everyone's doing their own activities,
Yeah.
and it can kind of lead to like a sort of involved, self-centered mindset, and maybe it doesn't, but I kind of think like that's the implication a little bit when it's everybody's thing. We got to fit everyone's thing in and at your time. But I also like the idea of kids being around to sort of learn how to grow up into members of the community and like
Yeah.
if it's always just like the kid-centered thing, they don't get that
Right.
exposure that I think is really important, and like
Yeah.
I want my son watching my husband being a man at our parish, so
Hmm.
that he can
Yeah.
have that.
I totally agree. Like one little point on that is that I've heard that the Notre Dame sociologist Christian Smith has done research on kids who continue to live out and practice the faith into adulthood. One of the indicators is how many adults do they know in their parish by name by the time they graduate. And
Wow.
so
Oh,
if you know almost no one besides your parents, the chances that you'll continue growing or in the faith are much lower. And it makes sense,
yeah.
because you get to see, oh, it's just not my crazy parents.
Right.
Look at it, it's this whole community, and dad's friend over there, oh, he seems kind of cool, or we had a good feeling that night. Everybody seemed happy. Our priest stopped by and encouraged us. So anyway, it's just to underscore, I think, to your point, we live in a fiercely individualistic culture. And when you see a parish hall filled with 75, 100, 125 people, families mingling,
Hmm.
like you are really planting a million seeds
Mm.
that could sprout up and grow in beautiful ways,
Hmm.
relationally, the faith, encouragement.
Yeah. Oh,
So
that's awesome.
I'm preaching to the choir here,
No,
but
no, I love it. And it is very encouraging. And again, I like what you're describing is very simple.
mhm.
So the videos are they, it's a similar material to what you described before, like the levels and those similar topics?
Yeah, we really felt like most of our gatherings are taking place, for example, on a Saturday at say
Hmm.
5:30 p.m. You know, you're nobody can handle a big lecture. Come
Yeah,
on,
yeah.
So it's a very brief, impactful 12-minute
Hmm.
video. Each one, it's a different one each time you go to a Heaven in Your Home gathering, but
Hmm.
it'll unpack in a practical way something like preparing for Sunday as a family, or chore
Mm.
day, or um, date night with your spouse, or hosting in your home, or as we just talked about, family dinner. So they're very practical. They're memorable. They incorporate interviews from just wonderful families and experts and
Mm.
some priests. And I think you kind of walk away with just a few new tools to try out for the next week.
That's great. So it's you and your wife do the videos, and then sometimes you have other. Um, were these things that you like the topics, things that you were implementing, or maybe you struggled to implement and needed guidance on yourselves and are trying to get? How did you get to these?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Each one of these has been pain points for us personally. So please learn from our experience, learn from our failures. So like, I'll give you like we're creating a 5-year curriculum. So your
Mm.
parish could then go into year 2, year 3, year 4. And you can just join in year 2 or year 3, no problem. It's not
Okay.
like you've missed,
Yeah. We don't know how to go on dates and now we
right,
can't. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I'll just give you like a feel. Like one of them is budgeting.
Hmm.
I wish somebody had taken me aside in my first year of marriage and really kind of walked me through uh, family budgeting with my
Mm.
spouse, some best practices. Maybe I would not have been ready to hear it, but so they're very practical, like personal
Mhm.
prayer, prayer as a couple, prayer as a family. And what we love is after this video, uh, I know you've seen examples like this, but when these parents turn to each other in like groups of 5 to 10, you know, that are sitting next to you, I mean, they share deeply with one another. They
Mhm.
they realize, oh, I'm not the only one struggling with this. They meet a new friend. There are tears. I mean, it's everything. It's just beautiful. Like you have to pry them out of that room after 20 minutes
Oh.
because they're just, and you have to be like, hey, listen, we don't want to burn out the child care team here. So come on. But
Yeah.
I think it's an example of just how much we as couples really need that fellowship, and you could even say some accountability with
Mm.
other couples.
Hmm. Hmm. That's great. I feel like with the sort of very curated, you way we can present ourselves now online, it always feels like everyone's doing more than you. You should be doing more, while also simultaneously you can conceal that you're maybe in some ways not living the way you would like.
Yeah.
Or so I don't know that. Yeah, that's great. That's great. All right, and then you have the cafe. You said the building was built in the 1700s, but it's like this beautiful stone building, and it's just so beautiful inside. And you guys have artwork from Catholic artists that is
Mm-hmm.
just really beautiful. Everything about it is beautiful. But so tell me more about what's the cafe like?
Sure. Yeah, we have the beautiful Trinity icon hanging above the fireplace in the main dining room. Your listeners have probably seen that, the 14th century icon. And what a lot of people don't know is that that original icon was called the Hospitality of Abraham and Sarah. So that was Abraham and Sarah, um, hosting the three angels or the three
Wow.
guests
Okay.
near
Oh.
the oaks of Mamre in Genesis. So what we like to point out with that icon is it's the hospitality icon. So we're kind of putting that right out there that in an age when faith has become so privatized,
Mm-hmm.
so hidden, so pulled back into our sanctuaries and into our living rooms, if we even pray in our living rooms. Do you know what I mean? And why not bring back a beautiful witness to the faith boldly, courageously in the public square? So we're doing like what Bishop Barron says, lead with beauty. And then beauty will kind of come in under the radar for people. Like it'll just be like, wow, there's something about this place. Like
Mm-hmm.
so peaceful. I like it. And then if they want to, they can go deeper. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where we have beautiful gift shop, art, books, sacramentals, rosaries,
Mm-hmm.
and soup, salad, sandwiches. We are very committed to like the food has got to be incredible. The coffee has got to be the
On point.
best.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
espresso drinks, because if that's not the case, oh, what a cute idea,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll be out of business in 2 days,
Yeah.
or maybe a month. So we're so blessed to have just celebrated our 10th anniversary,
Wow. Oh, wow. That's cool.
and the community just in the past 6 months has really come around this idea of our landlord offered us the chance to purchase the building, and we ran a capital campaign, and we're buying it in the
Wow.
month of June.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah,
Congratulations. That's incredible. Wow.
yeah. So it's really, I think it's a beautiful testament to how much communities need a place like this. And, it's not just for Christians to gather and, have a Bible study. It's really meant to be a public facing, witness. So
That's
you
good.
can come in with no faith, against the faith, and our hope is that you just have a very positive experience. And
Yeah, yeah. Some of my friends that aren't religious or maybe don't believe in God or aren't sure if they believe in God or I have talked to some of them about this idea like, well, sometimes you walk into a place and there's something, what is that thing that feels really good or sometimes it feels bad, and
sure.
and I think everyone is I think most people are familiar with that feeling, either way. And so what is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. Did you guys have to become coffee experts or
Oh, yeah.
were you already a coffee expert? How was that process?
My Ever is the coffee expert. So
Okay.
she's, she grew up in a restaurant family.
Right.
And so that was already kind of intuitive for her.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely had a education to go through just to
Okay.
really bring
Yeah.
the best coffee drinks.
Oh, cool. Okay. A religious coffee shop is a dream that I have heard a lot of Christians sort of have, and I think very few people put it into action. Something that they think. I mean, yeah, not everyone's dreaming about this, but it's something that I've heard people talk about. And then even if they do put it into action, will it be successful or not? It's you obviously described it very much as a ministry, but is it also like a business that sustains itself, or how? Tell me about the business side of it.
Sure. Yeah. The As with many new businesses, when we started it, it was kind of baptism by fire, and we quickly realized why so many businesses go out of go under so quickly. Because we are a nonprofit model, we were able to, with donations, keep the cafe ministry sustained through those first couple of years of kind of rocky learning. But now we have a very solid, sustainable model. 30% of our daily revenue is coming in from the gift shop, which is really such a great way to, we just got slammed on the day before Mother's Day, just people came
in.
So what we're very much looking at is how can we make a replicable model for a cafe and market, Trinity House Cafe and Market, that other communities might start. And I have to say, we're not quite there. We haven't quite come up with the model and the franchise or the playbook. I think we're getting within 1 or 2, maybe 3 years away from being able to do that. And of course, you need somebody at the local level who's certifiably insane.
Is that you or your wife or both?
And first you need that. But no, there's a lot of, from the business angle, there's a lot of important pieces to be carefully looking at, including the location. Could the local community possibly, through connections, give this local cafe a break in terms of rent? Or, we just were able to purchase our building. That's a beautiful example of how the community stepped forward to give us a leg up there. There's the example of labor. Could you possibly have a missionary program where people come for a year, live in community, serve as a barista, also serve possibly, volunteering at the parish in the religious education program or something. So, I mean, I'm talking kind of some dreams with you here. It is very, very hard to run a business like this and succeed. And so we're very intent on, alongside this growing family ministry throughout the country, we would like to see this become a model that can be replicable, because we're seeing
Hmm.
this is an incredible driver of evangelization in a community. And wouldn't it be great if others could do that too? Yeah.
Yeah. Um, it seems like the ministry part is, it's a huge piece of what makes it, attractive and a destination. Are there challenges with that too, as like business wise?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. The Yesterday I came in and the toaster was broken. Like there's always something, right?
Hmm.
Um, and if these things aren't really well ordered and well maintained and everything, you're just not going to have a very positive, outward facing,
Hmm.
beautiful experience. So, um, but I think um, Ever is just beautiful the way she talks about this. But Jesus became incarnate. He took on flesh. He had meals with us. Most of his teaching was around meals and, large gatherings.
Hmm.
Um, so um, to to take on the daily responsibility of hospitality in the public square, we're open Monday through Saturday. Um, it's an immense responsibility, but it also is really bringing the faith incarnate in such an amazing way. Because where in our culture do we all come together anymore? We're
Right.
so polarized. I mean, a cafe is one of the few places left.
Yeah.
And even our cafes can be polarized,
Yes.
Uh, and so, like one of our Yelp reviews begins, "Goodbye, Starbucks. I found religion." You
Oh,
know,
wow.
um, you know. But I think to your point, it really is a calling.
Hmm.
It has to be for somebody to really say, you know what, God has given me some gift of hospitality or charism for administration or charism for something, and
Hmm.
I'm going to put it to use in this way. And you're not going to see fruit. Like, we're up to 3 Trinity House marriages of couples who met at the cafe.
Oh, that's good.
Um, I was going to say, you're not going to see fruit like within an hour. It
Right.
takes time.
Yeah.
It's a marathon, and um, but it's such a privilege to do it.
That's great. You guys have 5 kids, and also you've taken on this like project that kind of really requires your heart and soul, and a lot of time. And um, how did you guys discern that? And did it feel like it was discerning that versus the needs of your kids, or like it was like a cohesive family vision? And I think a little bit of what I've tried to, when I'm trying to discern whether I should be doing a certain project or whatever, I'll have the thought in the back of my mind, like, but the kids need me more. And it's like, well, they always need me more, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if you could speak about that a little bit.
Sure.
Mm.
Well, I think that's a huge question. It begins in prayer,
Hmm.
in daily prayer. Ever and I, for quite a while now, have started the day off together. Sometime within the first few hours of the day, we pray the Surrender Novena together.
Mm.
And it doesn't take long, but it just puts our hearts in the right place. That, you know what, we're not going to, on our own build anything great today. We got to surrender like right at the beginning.
Mm.
Um, and so I want to just like mention prayer right at the outset, and obviously the sacraments and living so close to the heart of our faith and the church. And um, but I one of the things that comes to mind when you bring up children and discernment in our own experience, we really we've sensed in our own lives like a tendency to overwork and find meaning in achievement and build out the resume and work harder, work longer. And I think Ever and I, she would say this if she was on the podcast with us right now, we both had our addictions to that dopamine rush
Mm-hmm.
of, whoa, that was great. We worked long, the community loved it, and we got recognized. And then we realized, oh, now we're not treating each other very well. Or the tension in the home has just gone up because we
Mm-hmm.
didn't really, you know, we weren't attentive to this need of one of the kids. So I am so grateful to Ever for how I think the mission that you're hearing described really did take place alongside prioritizing huge amounts of time with each of the children, especially in their first 3 years. And, when you know
Mm-hmm.
that the bonds of attachment are just like being formed by the hour when our children are so young. And it's never over. But I do think that I'm, I've spoken with so many families where, the father or the mother or both were kind of like just so addicted to work in those early years when their kids needed them, to be holding them, and they wish they could have that time back,
Yeah.
you know. And so
Oh.
um, I think that's something to just bring up here, that I don't think any mission would be worth squandering the hours of holding your infant longer, and strengthening that core bond of attachment, which, Ever and I related to, like the neurobiology, just it works perfectly with our faith. Like we're made in the image of the relationship
Mm.
of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, this relationship of self gift and receiving. And so it makes total sense that um, if I'm carrying the image of the Trinity within me, that this I would want to do life in a Trinitarian key with my wife and my children
Mm.
from day one. So
Yeah. That's
um,
beautiful. um, when you guys started the cafe, were all your kids born already, or how old
um,
was your?
yes, Charlie was 2 when we started the
Okay.
cafe.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
He bussed
Um,
tables as a 2-year-old. So.
oh, I'm sure people love that. That's so cute. um, have your kids generally enjoyed that being a part of family life, or
I
where
listen,
they were
like,
like,
I'm amazed. All of them. Uh, well, Charlie hasn't worked there, but all the other 4 have
mm,
enjoyed being, like, they're baristas, cooks.
that's
My
cool.
senior in high school is now head of inventory for the cafe.
Oh, that's
So
great.
I think we usually have about 10 baristas on staff. And,
Hmm.
related to that point is just, wow, I didn't really realize what a great school of, like, a miniature society this
Hmm.
is, and how much they learn just through, perseverance, work, customer service. I mean,
Hmm.
it's been great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Do you sort of require that all your baristas sort of understand the ministry, or how were the?
You know, our preference is that, they are coming to us with some understanding of the mission and
Hmm.
a desire there.
Hmm.
But over the years, we've had other staff, some staff that, come in with little to no faith, and we just welcome them, and they're part of the team.
Yeah, that's
So
great. Yeah,
I
I love
think,
it.
yeah, I think it's a real great opportunity to, bring the faith into that team on a daily basis and let it overflow uh, to the customers, to the guests.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's like you want to create the positive culture that requires some protection.
Mhm.
And then you want to welcome and bring people into the fold, and Yeah, I don't know. I think some of my friends maybe struggle with being a little closed off. Sometimes I wonder if we're a little too open. I don't know. Do you have any words about
Well,
that?
I love what you're saying because it is such a tension. I think one when we opened the cafe in 2014, we thought we were going to get hit with this wave of like criticism and,
Hmm.
overt hostility. What actually happened was the opposite.
Mm.
All these people in the community stepped forward and said, "Love what you're doing." And others said, "I don't share your faith commitment, but I want to take my hat off to you. I had a great experience there."
Wow.
And so I offer that as kind of it's very tempting to just kind of withdraw. Um, but when we advance, is the best form of defense a strong offense? I think something to be said for Christian hospitality um, being a strong offense.
Mm.
But I would draw a distinction here between like what we're doing with the cafe and the Christian home, um, because that's where I'd want to say, as a father, well, you better know your kids' passwords and have the internet filters on and be on the scene, walking the beat and protecting them in
Yeah.
not a way that is motivated by fear or motivated by, I mean, Christ has already won the victory. You
Hmm.
know, these are skirmishes that are very real, but
Yeah.
he has won the victory. So I just want to bring that up, like, because you're saying, are we too open? Are we too much in a bunker? Yeah, it's a very delicate question that I do think every couple has to discern with the
Yeah.
Holy Spirit in prayer.
Yeah. Yeah. That rings true. Our kids are like very extroverted with people. So it's like at some level I'm like, okay, part of this there might be some family personality
Uh-huh.
you know, that has to come into consideration.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
yeah, your kids go to public school.
Mhm.
So that I think again on that sort of protecting or being open,
Mhm.
how has that been? How do you navigate the challenges? Do your kids ever feel torn in any way?
Sure. We did have, just in our local community, we did have access to a Catholic preschool. So I mean, there was a
Mm,
little bit there just at the
hmm.
beginning. But that said, then the closest Catholic school is a pretty long drive from us. So we really felt that, you know, it wasn't much of an option for us. Um, Ever and I, most of our upbringing was in public school. So we had certainly a kind of working knowledge of that. And I'd say overall, we have found a number of educators in our kids' public schools who are overt Christians,
Mm,
very affirming of the faith. So it has not been a bed of roses. I don't mean to convey that. But that said, um, we do feel like our kids have, you know, received, Lord willing, a strong, vibrant, robust, immersive Catholic culture within the home, which is then buttressed by the local parish, supported by places like Trinity House, where they walk in and it's just like, whoa, that person knows me. That person knows me. I know them. There comes Father. He's
mm,
coming in, uh, to order a coffee, And so I think altogether that has, Lord willing, given our kids an experience where they're grounded in the faith.
hmm.
Um, yeah.
Hmm. I know some Christians that maybe are afraid to send their kids to public school. And I don't think they're totally wrong, but it's like maybe when you look at the logistics and circumstances of their lives, the sort of ease and peace that it might bring as an option, maybe um, is significant enough to weigh against bad ideas. But so it sounds like maybe you would just advise somebody to make sure they have a solid home and parish and Christian community outside of school.
Yes.
Mm,
Yes. Yeah. I'm I really don't think there are any cookie cutter answers. And I know
mhm.
so many families who they, if you asked them, you'd find out that one kid is in public school, one's in Catholic, one's
Yes.
in non-Catholic private school,
Yeah.
one's in homeschool. I mean, it's
Yes.
incredible like
Yes. Yeah.
how these interweave and
Hmm.
we go through different seasons.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't mean to duck the question at all. I just mean
Yeah.
it's like a very complex one for today's parents. And but I would say we should all share at the end of the day a rock solid commitment to imbuing our homes with a joy filled culture of where they can sense Jesus, the Holy Spirit, the orientation to God the Father, a Trinity House. Because at the end of the day, that's going to send them into a strong Catholic school experience or public school or homeschool. And there's just no way you can outsource that.
Right.
You can't drop your kids off at, I don't care how expensive it is. You can't outsource family culture. You
Right.
can't outsource family prayer. I'm
Yeah.
preaching here to the
No, no,
choir,
no.
but you know.
No, it's a thing that needs to be said and said again.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's great. I guess how do you and Ever stay, grounded and close to God, and just with the hustle and bustle of, all the projects that you have going on, and a cafe that, that's just by itself, and the kids and.
First of all, the daily prayer aspect that I mentioned, I would point to weekly date night. That's what we're
Mm,
doing. Like
mm,
we make it a commitment
mm-hmm,
and we try to turn off work, turn off the phones for our weekly date night and really connect.
mm-hmm.
But that's not enough. There has to be quality connection every day. And so I'm not the best at this. We haven't figured it all out. But really, I mean, if we're not taking time to listen deeply, Ever and I talk about um, empathic witness. I mean, like we have to life is coming at us fast and furious. We need to process this with our spouse. Otherwise, it's going to be like unmetabolized and it's going to come out somewhere else. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And it's not going to be pretty. So um, I think it's important for Ever and me to each have to make to kind of sponsor one another's life of prayer getaways for retreats now and then,
Mm,
sponsor one another for some downtime,
mm-hmm,
sponsor one another for time with close friends. And together, you know, that rootedness in our Lord, in ever deepening prayer, more time with the sacraments, more time with authentic friendships, that's going to come together with a better quality time together each day, a better date night, just growing intimacy as a couple, deepening communion. I mean, it's, I'm saying this and it's sounding a little bit ideal, but that's really what we're striving for that.
mm-hmm,
And then somebody will get sick, a car will go into the shop, something will break at the cafe, we'll lose a staff person,
mm.
uh, you know, and suddenly like 3 days later, you're like, oh, which way is up? This is insane, you know.
Right.
But I think we're getting better at just being like, okay, take a deep breath and use this as a moment to return to the Lord and, acknowledge this is about Him. We surrender. This is not life project, my self-justification project. This is about him. So
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, great. Thank you so much. I loved this. I loved hearing all your thoughts. I think our listeners also will feel the same way. Do you have anything else you want to add about?
Oh,
I don't
thanks
know.
so much, Laura. This was a great conversation. I really appreciate it. So grateful to you and Clark and Simple
Yeah.
House, and so glad you had a great visit to the cafe as well.
Yes. Yeah.
We'll have your next cup of coffee waiting for you here.
Great.
And if anyone wants to follow me and Ever, they can sign up for our free weekly e-letter. That's where we're just trying to inspire families on a weekly basis with just a little story or a few tools. And then, of course, if anyone wants to get a Trinity House group started in their parish, we're ready to help out and make that possible. So
Great. And we can we'll link your website on the show notes. And thank you. Please like and subscribe to our podcast, and look forward to the next time. Thanks a lot.
thanks,
God bless
Laura.
you.
God bless.